Do 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 do. You don't have to read all this. I'll go over it, but I'll let you look at it while you're coming in. Come on in here, everybody. This is going to be a fairly quick one. I just have one point to make today. And when we get to 500, we'll jump right into it. I haven't turned on the news today, so I don't know if anything's happened yet today. I worry if I go 3 hours without watching the news, I start panicking. And I think, what the hell else happened? All right, we're in the man cave. And I want to talk about pattern recognition. All right? So I think that's looks right to you. So for complex issues, which is really everything in politics, there's some that are easier, such as abortion, yes or no, but most things are complicated. Healthcare, what do you do about this? What about, even Charlottesville was complicated, even though you think on the surface it shouldn't be. Nazis are bad, it's easy. But as soon as you start peeling it down, everything gets complicated. Now the problem is that when we experience complexity, we humans, this is all of us, there's some level of complexity beyond which our reason and our faculties just sort of don't work. And when you get to that level of complexity, you default to whatever patterns you've seen that look similar to what you're looking at now. And so my is this, that for complex issues, data and reason will fail because we're just not as smart as we think we are. And most things in politics are complicated, and we observe that it's full of people who can't use reason and are ignoring data, because data and reason fail when you get to a certain level of complexity. So what happens when we can't use our data and our reason because we're just not up to the task? Our brains are just not good enough for that. We default to pattern recognition. And here's the point I wanted to make. The more patterns you have seen, the better. And that I would characterize that as higher awareness. If you've only ever seen the Hitler pattern, everything looks like Hitler. If the only thing you've seen is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. So the more patterns you've seen, the higher your awareness. Now here's the controversial part. How do you make your awareness higher? By seeing more patterns. Here's how. Get older. The older you are, the more patterns you've seen. Is it an accident that young people are in Antifa and older people less so? That is not an accident. Older people have seen more patterns. Now there are other reasons why young people are protesting. That's not the only reason, but it's one of them. If you become educated or you have more experience, you've seen more patterns, but also the composition of your talent stack matters. If you've compiled a bunch of experience and talents that give you a broad look at the world, you will have seen more patterns, all right? So I've studied economics and psychology, persuasion. I've studied business. I pay attention to the news. So when I look at something, I see business patterns, political patterns, historical patterns, economic patterns, etc. I just have more patterns. Which does not mean that therefore I'm the smart one in the conversation, right? It just means that I have more patterns. I have more tools, because when I look at a new thing, I say, what's the pattern? Let me give you a specific example. Let's say you're 20 years old and suddenly President Trump comes on the scene and you say to yourself, what's my pattern? Like, it was way too complicated to know about all the topics and all the things the president could do, and how does it work with the Congress, and what is North Korea doing and everything else. Way too much for any brain. It doesn't matter how old you are. Nobody can really handle that stuff. It's just too much. So you default to your pattern. You're 20 years old. You learned about this Hitler thing. It's all you got. It's all you have. It's the one pattern in your head. So yes, if all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail, and it's Well, there's Hitler again. Hey, look, over there, it's more Hitler. What's happening over here? Well, I see some Hitler. How about over there? Looks like a little Hitler. All right, if you have one pattern, that's what it looks like. Now, if you're a little older, and I said this on a prior Periscope, at my age, I've lived through the experience of several Republican presidents being accused of being Hitler, getting into office, and then not being Hitler. Like, not even close. Guess what? Not Hitler. Happened again. Reagan wasn't Hitler. Happened again. Bush Sr. wasn't Hitler. Bush Jr., not the best president, but wasn't Hitler. You know, you didn't go to Iraq to just kill brown people. You know, there was another reason. So from my perspective, President Trump looks like every other Republican president who turned out to be benign. And indeed, you know, we would see the Supreme Court getting involved if he were violating any constitutional rights to equal everything under the law. All right, so here's my big point. If you want to help somebody see your way, don't tell them that they got the data wrong. Don't tell them that their reasoning is broken. Give them extra patterns. Because people will do what they can with their patterns, but if you've given them only a hammer, don't expect them to ignore that nail. That's not a thing, all right? If they got a hammer and everything looks like a nail, they're going to start pounding. But you can give them extra patterns. You could say, how many times have we thought a Hitler would come to power, only to find out there was nothing like that, not even close, not even a little bit of Hitler. Okay? Likewise with, well, here we're getting dangerous territory, but why not? Why not? Take climate science. Again, if you're young, you say that you haven't seen many patterns in life, and you say to yourself, well, if all the scientists are on the same side, you know, or 97%, or even 90%, or just most of them, you know, forget about the percentage. If the consensus of science is all on one side, and I took that, you know, 10th grade biology class, and my teacher said science is good and it's the best way to find truth, I kind of only know one thing. That's all I know. I know science is good. And on this topic of climate science, all the scientists seem to be on the, you know, the ones I care about seem to be on the same side. I got one pattern. Now fast forward to my age, all right? How many times have I seen all the experts say, this is true, only to find out that it wasn't? A lot. A lot. How many times have I heard somebody say, I have a magic prediction model that can see into the future, only to find out that it couldn't? How many times have I seen that? A lot. All right. All right. My patterns include all the times that the experts were on the same side and were just wrong. Do you remember the nutrition pyramid from the government? This came from our government, and all the experts seem to agree. It's all the experts plus the government on the same side. That food pyramid must be right, but it wasn't. How about that 8 glasses of water you got to drink every day? Every expert's telling you that. You could go to any trainer, any fitness person, any nutritionist, and say, what do I need to do? And they're like, well, you want to get that 8 glasses of water or whatever it is because you need hydration. Turns out, it wasn't true. No, it wasn't true. How about the time when you were a kid, if you're my age, and they told you don't eat a sandwich before you go swimming? Were the experts all on the same side? I think they were. I don't really, you know, I can't remember doing any research on it, but I don't remember anybody telling me, no, that's not real. I don't remember anybody saying that, right? But turns out it wasn't true, right? You can eat a sandwich and go swimming. It's not dangerous. So once you reach my age, you've seen, oh, it's peak oil, we're going to run out of oil. Well, okay, we didn't. It's year 2000, all the experts say there's nothing we can do, we're all doomed. Well, it turned out to be no big deal, right? If you see enough of these patterns, and then you look at climate science, and you see that all the smart people, all the scientists, and again, I'm exaggerating, I don't mean all of them, but the consensus is on one side. If you've never seen many patterns, and all you did is you took a couple of science classes in college or high school, you say to yourself, well, everything I know about science is it's good stuff, and if all the good stuff's on the same side of the issue, that's pretty obvious. It could not be more clear. I don't have to be a scientist to know that if you side with the majority of scientists, you're on the smart side, all right? But again, if you haven't seen many patterns, that makes complete sense. If you have, the scientists might be right. I'd like to think they are, all right? But you can't put the same level of credibility on it as you might have when you were young. All right, so that was my only point for today. I'm going to leave that short and sweet. And so I tell you, once again, remember, don't win small when you can win bigly.